Since I was a freshman in high school, I have had this Ferrari shirt. I bought it on eBay, and this was my one-day motivation piece. And now I can finally wear it with pride, knowing that we did it. Enzo Ferrari himself once said, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And he was right. This is my new 1989 Ferrari 348TS. And let me tell you, this feels crazy. So I've been keeping this car a secret for 6 months now. Bought it in January, and I've been secretly enjoying it amongst myself because I didn't really know how to tell my friends or my family or social media. So it's been for me, but I have finally announced on Instagram, and that means I'm due for a video. So here is our first look, impressions of what some may say was the worst Ferrari ever built. Not me, but people say it. And you could go online and you could look up Ferrari 348, and you're gonna get basically two things. You're gonna get, oh, the Ferrari 348 is the worst car ever, the worst Ferrari ever, shameful to have the badge. And then you'll get the side over here, we were all so wrong about the Ferrari 348. Is it a hidden gem? Is it this? Is it that? And it's really interesting in the automotive world because you typically don't have two completely opposite opinions. And I think that's very interesting for this car. And I could just tell you right off the bat, we'll get into it later, how stupid to say it's a bad car. You know, I don't know. So if you're a subscriber of mine, you may be thinking, what is Josh doing with a Ferrari? You probably didn't even realize this video was from me. If you're new here, watching a video on a 348, you may be wondering, why does this guy have a wall of BMWs behind him, but he's talking about a Ferrari? Well, I love BMW, and I think this goes for most people in the automotive world, everyone dreams of a Ferrari. I think there is no brand across the world. I think people say there is no brand that is as mutually loved as Ferrari across everyone, everywhere, whether it's racing, car manufacturing, or just, I love it. I think this is the brand because let me tell you, you drive this car, you have men, women, older people, younger people, it doesn't matter. Everyone just adores it. And I think a lot of that is because it has the absolutely amazing 80s charm. It's red and it's just a Ferrari. Everyone's like, every car guy I think in their life has dreamed of a Ferrari. I've always dreamed of a Ferrari. So to start with some facts about the car, 348TS was made from 1989 to 1995. This was the 328's successor and the predecessor to the 355, which is highly regarded as one of the best Ferraris ever built. It is a 3.4 liter V8 flat plane crankshaft, 4 valves, 4 cams, 4 valves per cylinder. Makes 296 horsepower. I know, it's almost laughable. The last dogleg gated 5-speed Ferrari. Dogleg meaning first gear is towards you, so then second and third are just like boom, 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 which is also what the Euro Sport Evo E30 M3s and Alpina's B6s, it's a very common racing gearbox. The last Enzo designed Ferrari. This is the last Ferrari ever made under Enzo's basically oversights before he passed away. And I think that is really special. And you can just tell that this is the last of the kind of really charming 80s style Ferrari, right? You have the side strakes, the rear vented grills, and I mean, it just screams like the glory days, right? No power steering. This car is in Rosso Corsa red. We have Ferrari tan interior, obviously. Being a TS, this is a Targa, so TS stands for transversal, and then Spider, which is weird because you think Spider, you think a full convertible, but I probably said that wrong. I think you say that in an Italian way. But transversal because it's a transversal gearbox, meaning it's behind the engine, like the whole engine is basically flipped. And then the Spider is the removable roof right here. So if you come in and you, very easily, you just unlatch this side, then you unlatch this side on the front, and then you tip it up and out. Ooh. And there you have your Spider, which is actually more known as like a Targa top. So it's basically a coupe with no roof, but it's not a convertible. And that is why I really wanted one of these. So it has the lines of a coupe when the roof is on, but you can still get that convertible wind in your hair. So 34,000 miles, all original except for one more important thing, and that is a sport muffler and catless headers. So this thing sounds freaking amazing. I think stock, these are kind of underwhelmingly like sounding cars. But everyone always says, oh, the 348 engine is a great sounding engine, you just need an exhaust, and it already has the exhaust. Otherwise, we have a aftermarket carbon splitter from, you know, the period, I don't know how long or what year, but it's an old one. So I don't dislike it, I don't love it. It's kind of what it is. But yeah, let's look around the car really quick. 348s have the one vent right there, which I believe goes to an oil cooler. The little air scoop, that's the splitter I was talking about. Pop-up headlights, of course. These are the stock wheels, which I think just look amazing. The 80s Testarossa side strake. So that's the one thing everyone that like briefly sees this car, they go, oh, it's a Testarossa. No, it's not a Testarossa. Testarossas do have the same side strakes. That's where these came from. Testarossas ran, I think, from 86 to 90, and then the 512 TR. So the Testarossa is an older style car, and this car definitely took some of its design cues from the Testarossa. You got the whole vented trunk or engine cover, and then I absolutely love the grills over the taillights. Some people don't like it. I absolutely adore it. It just, I mean, look at, this is so 80s in the back. It is absolutely insane. I mean, it is just beautiful. There's the Targa roof off. Here's your interior, Ferrari tan, dogleg gated 5-speed, a very Momo-esque wheel. I mean, it probably is made by Momo. You got your Ferrari plaque with your VIN right there. There's your cluster, 200 on the cluster, 10,000 RPM. Doesn't do either of those two things, but it's cool nonetheless. So to get in this car, you have your button right here, and then there's kind of like a little door handle right here. You push it and pull, and then you're greeted with an extremely wide, what do you call this? It's a sill. And I'm young, I'm nimble, and I will say, getting into this car is not easy, it's not fun. Getting in and out, like when you're in it, you want to be in it. Like you want to have your garage door opener ready. Like I go and use the keypad, and it's like, oh my God, like getting in and out. And that helps explain why the bolsters on these cars wear so badly. Because, like I said, I'm young and nimble. Imagine the people that buy these cars, probably older guys to afford them, because the retail needs was, I think, over $110,000. I think it was like 115 or around that area. And, you know, they kind of just get in and they just, you know, they throw themselves on the bolster. And, yeah, the bolster wears. So that's the only really wear you see on this car is the bolster. But then getting in, you are greeted with probably the tightest seats I've ever felt in a stock car. These are amazing. Like, these are literally like bucket seats. And I'm also a pretty skinny guy. And these hug my hips exceptionally tight. I can't imagine being anyone other than like 5'10" and sub 160, like sub 170, because this is it's not a big car at all. You immediately notice how cantered in the footwells are, because I think, and I don't want to misuse words here, these are kind of like monocoque cars. Like you have a whole rear end that bolts off with the engine, and you're kind of just in a little monocoque, right? So your wheels are here, and your feet go in, and it's really interesting to drive because your pedals are like to the right of your wheels. So it's a weird feeling, but then you got your gated shifter, and it makes all the right noises, and it feels awesome. You got your super Italian horn, which is just absolutely hilarious. Fold down visors, rear view mirror. You have your, I think it's called a flyaway parking brake, which is basically, since it's on the left side here, and if it was up, it would be going into your legs when you're trying to get out of the car. Basically, you pull it up, it engages, and then it goes back down. And then to get it off, you go back up and then down again. So it's pretty interesting. I've never seen it in any other cars. It's probably a Ferrari thing. Here you have your trunk, and here you have your frunk levers. Right here is your manufactured VIN plate. So this car was August of 1989. So it is an early car because 89 was the first year. On the door right here, you have both of your windows, and you have electric mirrors actually that work. And then your door handle is this thingy right here. So if the door is closed, maybe you guys can see it. You pull up on this lever. Super unique. I mean, pull up, not a lot of people that I've had in this car, they were like, what the hell? How do you get out? Right there is your inlets for your radiators. There's 2 radiators on each side of the car for engine cooling. So the side strakes on the doors are 110% functional. I know, especially BMW guys are used to vents that really don't do anything. They are absolutely functional on this car. Right there at the rear quarter is your engine air intake. You could kind of see right there, there's 2 tubes. When I open the engine bay, it'll become more apparent. Obviously no back seat, you got some speakers, an insane curved glass window, so if that breaks, good luck. This is what you see. So you got your speedometer with your odometer, you got your oil pressure, coolant temp, and then your RPMs. And then down here you have your oil temperature and gas gauge. So you do have coolant temp and oil temp, which is awesome. Right here you have your radio cover, so you don't have to see your radio. This car has an aftermarket head unit, which is a must. But you could close that and you don't have to see your radio, which is really nice because a lot of these aftermarket head units just throw flashing lights at you all the time, and they're pretty annoying. You got your fog lights, parking lights, rear defrost, hazards, all your climate controls right here. So 348s and I think 355s are notorious for what they call sticky buttons, where all your buttons just get kind of sticky. I'm happy to say that this car has fantastic feeling buttons. And then here is your gated, little storage cubby right there. That's, I think, locking and unlocking of the doors maybe. And that's how you pop your gas door. Dual ashtray. Then you have a center storage partition right here. You may not think there's a glove box, but you see there's a little kind of, opening there. And you got a little bit of a glove box with a light and a nice little shock right there. Here is the pedal box. The gas pedal is really crazy. It's like, it's not at the back of the foot panel. It's kind of in its own little tray right there. So it is very interesting to drive. And then maybe you could see kind of how cantered in the footwells are. If you look, that's wheel well, so your legs canter in. So that's kind of the best way to see it. Hitting your trunk button, you will unlatch your hood, I guess, not trunk. And then you have this very lightweight, mainly because it's vented. It's not even really a panel. You have a little bit of metal and you have, I think, plastic vents. Or they might be. No, those gotta be plastic. And then you have your engine compartment. So here houses your 3.4 liter Ferrari V8 engine. A beautiful engine, redlining at 7,500 RPM, making 296 horsepower. Transversal gearbox is right here. That's why you see basically the Ferrari clutch at the back of the car. If you look from the bottom, that's all you see. This is a dry sump engine. The dry sump tank is right there. Here is your 2 air intakes that come from the scoops right here. You have basically everything, dual MAFs. This engine had an engine out service performed last August, and a lot of the hate behind 348s is, every 5 years or 3 to 5 years or 40,000 miles, I think it is, you need to pull your whole engine out and do your timing belts because it's a reverse engine. Your timing belts are right here and you can't do them in the car. So basically, I think it's 19 bolts or nuts and your entire rear end basically comes off the body. You drop the engine and you basically do your engine service. It's like a $20,000 service. I have all the receipts. This guy paid, I think, like he paid like 18 grand, and then plus like the front steering or suspension was rebuilt. He spent a lot of money and then had to sell this car, and that's why I got it at a fair price with all the important maintenance done. So this thing has re-wrinkled valve covers. He did all the exhaust, fully resealed, timing belts, everything you could think of has been done. It is basically a get in and go car, and that's what makes this that awesome. When it comes time to need the service done, I'll probably do it myself, because if you look in here, you may think, oh, Ferrari, it's intimidating. This really is the same Motronic as a BMW of the era. These are Bosch MAFs, Bosch TPS. These are quite literally the same MAFs I think you would find on an M62, which doesn't make sense because these are a lot more modern, or this is an older car than an M62, but yeah, anyway, similar Motronic map. I'm sure these are specific to the Ferrari, but they look identical. This TPS is straight off of an M30. I kid you not. That is literally, I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers are the same. You got dual ignition coils right here. And I mean, overall, it's just it seems pretty simple. So a lot of people will tell you that DIYing these is not the worst thing ever. If you're any so competent in working on cars, you could probably wrench on this. Since it's an early car, the battery is stupidly placed right here in the rear, which I don't know why they put more weight in the back of a car that already is a rear engine car with all the weight in the back, but it is what it is. You can see your rear suspension right there. Basically a tubular rear chassis. That's all your reinforcements and stuff. Looking up here, you have your paint code, Rosso Corsa, Ferrari 300/9. Here's your Ferrari AGIP oil specifications, which I really love that it tells you right here. You don't even have to guess, right? So 75W90, GL5 for the transmission, engine oil, 10W40, just like a BMW. So that's really cool. You have your warning high voltage because your caps are right there, your distributors. VIN is stamped right there. That's your dry sump tank, heat shields for the exhaust. But then just looking in here, I mean, you could see the refinished Ferrari valve covers, all the new gaskets. Beautiful engine, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the sound is insane. Just wait till we take this thing for a ride. There you can kind of see the sport muffler, and there's your clutch packs. So you can see when you're driving right from the back, boom, Ferrari. Coming around into the frunk, as they call it, you'll find your Ferrari toolkit briefcase made by Schedoni, an Italian leather company, I think. And in here you'll have all your tools. So I'll just bring them over here before I drop them on my paint. Oh, it's a little messy, but you actually have Ferrari branded wrenches, which is absolutely the coolest thing ever. Check that out. Ferrari. Some bulbs, some fuses, decent amount of tools in here, pliers, all that stuff. So that is a very cool thing right there. Otherwise, this car also came with Ferrari shop service manual, which is very cool. And this has already helped me replace my alternator, which has already failed on me, which is funny. Because a lot of people say the alternators and the electrical system on these cars sucks. Well, maybe they do. Also in here, and it's actually pretty damn spacious, we have our Ferrari basically fix-a-flat, and it's got the Ferrari AGIP branding right there. And then I just have an aftermarket amp that powers the head unit. Blower motors right there. Couple other fun facts about the Ferrari 348. It said that there was about 8,800 produced, which really is pretty crazy if you think about it, because that's a pretty rare car. Only 8,000, less than 9,000 produced. If you put it into perspective, like an E34, I think they made like 1.6 million. So you kind of understand why these are coveted and why they're rare and you don't see them and why they're just so special. Another thing is, you might think how heavy it is. Everyone always says, oh, it's gotta be a light car. These things actually weigh 3,300 pounds, which is the exact same, right around the exact same weight as a 1990 E34 5 Series. And if you get them side by side, this looks like a way smaller car. So I don't know where the hell the weight comes from on this thing, but I just think that that's really crazy, because it's not that light of a car. So it's like, oh yeah, 296 horsepower, but it weighs nothing. Weighs something. And that's why I think it'll be really interesting to compare these cars to like the 90s like M cars, because you'd be surprised at how capable those M cars are compared to this. Top speed was said to be about 170 miles an hour. Haven't gotten anywhere close, I will say. I think we checked out the car. Why don't we fire this thing up, hear this amazing V8, and go for a quick little spin. So right off the bat, the first thing everyone's probably wondering, how does it feel with no power steering? It's actually not that bad. Like it's not bad, even stopped, like right now. Like I'm turning my wheel, and I mean it's a little tricky, like when you're a dead stop, of course, but some people say, oh, it sucks when you're driving, it's hard. I think it's so easy, like as opposed to when a BMW power steering brakes, this is a way easier to turn car. And then the other question is, oh, what's the dog leg like? Dog leg's not bad at all either. I'm really used to it now because between the Alpina, the E30, and this, I have 3 dogleg cars, which is kind of wild. So as a quick backstory as to what I was saying earlier, some of you may know, some of you may not know, this was for a very long time regarded as a horrible Ferrari, like almost to the point where like people were saying it was like a disgrace to the brand. And you may think like, why would, you know, why, right? Like it looks awesome, sounds awesome. I'm gonna tell you pretty soon here that it drives awesome, but you have to remember that back in '89 when this car came out, the predecessor was a very maintenance-free, cheap-to-own, well-performing Ferrari, and then the Acura NSX came out, I think, right around the same time, and was far cheaper than this, and it outperformed this in every way. I'm pretty sure the F40 came out right around now. Testarossa was out. So you had all these really awesome cars, right? And all these great performing cars. I mean, in 1990, you had E34 M5 was just about to come out. You had the E28 M5, which the power, I mean, is right around here. I mean, it maybe actually more, or it's just a little less. So you had just these, I mean, heavy hitter cars, right? You had, you know, these Alpinas, and literally I'm talking from one brand's perspective, but the AMGs, Lamborghinis, yes, I mean, really high performing cars. And just like everyone that I tell this car about, oh, how much power? Oh, 296. And they're like, what, a Ferrari? And it's like, yeah, it's just not a very high performing car. Once it warms up, we'll get into it. But yeah, so I guess just especially with the engine out, maintenance, expensive to own, expensive to maintain, and underwhelming compared to its competitors that could be had at cheaper prices. You have to understand that in the world of cars, that is not good. That is, you know, that you don't want that. You don't want that wrap. You don't want, I mean, that's not great. So yeah, now, and what I was saying, now you have non-stop bloggers, YouTubers, whatever, Doug DeMuro, Chris Farah, or Matt Farah, all these people. You could go on the internet and you could just look it up, right, for yourself. Oh, the 348's not as bad as we thought, or oh, the 348's now a hidden gem. And I know why they did that all these years. Those bastards wanted to keep everyone from buying up their 348s because they knew how good they were. I'm gonna sit here and be optimistic and say they were just hiding how good it was. That's all BS, dude. I mean, you hop in this car and you immediately, the sensations you get, right? I mean, no power steering, the steering feel, this car rides on rails and it has really crappy tires, but I have never driven a car that feels this just over impressive. I mean, not even to mention the fact that you're in a freaking Ferrari. You got these high mirrors hanging, you got the gated shifter clinking, the engine noise behind you. It is literally, the experience is absolutely visceral. It is a beautiful driving car. I mean, once you get used to it, I mean, you cannot beat this thing, dude. I mean, it is just, and we're not even beating on it yet. You know, this is just casually driving. It's comfortable. Everyone that's been in it, they say, dude, it's smooth. Like it is seamless. Even the revs, it drives so smooth and just, it feels like such a quality car. I will say one downfall I can kind of feel is the interior, like plastics, like the vents, little cheap. The leather's beautiful on everything, but yeah, like the center console, a lot of buttons, the vents kind of rattle, they're a little cheap feeling, and that's really my only gripe with any quality of this car, anything at all. It otherwise does everything very well. The only thing is the interior quality feels a little in some places. The brakes are fantastic. I already said the steering will just blow you away. It is literally, I mean, it is insane, the feeling of the steering. The windows are super slow, but they do the trick. And just listen to the V8 behind you. The sounds is Oh my God. The sounds are awesome. Another thing I will say, out of the gate, it's not a very intuitive car to drive. These are actually, I've actually really struggled learning how to like get good at driving it. I've had a couple buddies drive it, and I mean, they literally say like, this car is making me feel like I don't know how to drive a car. The clutch is pretty stiff. It bites pretty interestingly. The gated manuals, I don't know if it's just me or, they're not that easy to drive. Like I know you think, oh, you can't miss shift. Well, being a dogleg, you can certainly think that the gears are in the wrong places, right? And I've worried about that nonstop. As God, I hope I don't shove the car into reverse thinking I'm going into first gear. Obviously, I'm not rev match downshifting into first, but you have that worry. You know, sometimes your brain, when you're so used to driving traditional 5-speeds, you do get like a little brain fart and you forget, wait a minute, what's the shift pattern, right? And especially if you're beating on it, you're driving it fast, and you forget whether you're going to 5th or you're going to 3rd, it's very scary. Yeah, it's tricky to drive. I mean, it's an old like Italian car, so it's pretty finicky, but it's also like you think, oh, it's a fragile little Ferrari. It's you kind of have to manhandle it. Like you have to shift the gears hard. You got to slam the doors. You got to, you know, fight the power steering. But when you start going, you can't deny the smile that this car puts on your face. It is, oh my God, the noise. I hope the mic picks up as half as good as this car sounds. Like, listen to these downshifts. Oh my God. I wish I filmed my first drive, because I was smiling ear to ear, which I still am, but now I'm just used to it. Take it all the way to red line. Hearing that engine behind you is just an insane feeling. How you feel driving this car, I can't even put words to it. I have driven a lot of special cars, a lot of special BMWs, but nothing feels like this car feels. It is, and I mean, I'm not in my curvy roads right now, but when you're cornering this car, and once I get better tires, I will do a full driving video. These are a little sketchy. The way it corners with the no power steering, how direct it feels. It's not a straight line bullet, but it does it very well. And you see this very often in reviews on BMW M cars. E46 M3, E92 M3. Oh, they're not straight line rocket ships, but put it to the test handling and you are gonna be blown away. And that is how I feel about this car. The power to the car is amazing. Like, this car does this power very well. Like, it's not throwing you back or anything, but you don't need it to, because when you have that engine buzzing behind your head and you have steering like this, I mean, it's like blissful. It's like, it's so much fun, I can't even put words to it. Like, for 6 months, once winter passed, I would come out here to the shop, because I never told my mom, or I never brought it home, and I would just drive, dude. I mean, just drive. And I mean, you take it out at dusk until the sun would go down. I would just be ripping this thing around, and it never gets old. And I absolutely love the dogleg transmission. It's one of those things, a lot of people are like weirded out by it at first, and even me. But once you realize how awesome it is to be able to go 2-3, 2-3 straight up and down, especially when you're on a track, which I haven't been on a track, but that's where it shines, because like second to third in a traditional, you got to go through kind of the crossover. Easier to miss shift, a little clunkier, slower. This is literally boom, boom, and it is amazing to drive. Absolutely amazing. It is just so good in every single way. I adore this car. Not only how it looks, but how it drives. I mean, it is hard to not look at this car and see it zoom by you and not be like, wow, like that's Ferrari. Like, that is the heritage of cars. That's why we love cars, right? I mean, you nowadays, you just see NPCs, Teslas on the road. You see all these bland, boring, colorless cars. And over, you're just like, ugh. And so, I mean, it's so hard not to see a red Ferrari on the road and be like, whoa. Even if you're not a car guy, I think you can appreciate what this is and how it looks on the road. Just a timeless design, a ode to when cars were cars and cars were badass. Like, you're not getting screaming V8s anymore. You don't get any of this. You don't get no power steering. You don't get dogleg 5 speeds. You don't get any of it. And it's sad, but that's only gonna make these cars that much more special. And as I said earlier, there's going to be a point where I think these are gonna start to do this, because you can't argue the fact that you'll never see cars like this. Everything about them, right? Yeah, the 355 is better. I personally don't like the styling of the 355. I think the styling is very modern. It got rid of the side strakes and it's just the swooshes. I don't like the circle taillights, no rear grille. I think 355s, they look good. They're very close relatives. Like, those cars are near identical to these, just updated, and they are better, I think, in probably most ways. I haven't driven one, but I know that's maybe where I'm coming in such a positive aspect of this car, because I haven't driven enough 40. I haven't driven Lamborghinis of the era, right? So maybe I don't have enough to compare it to, but coming from a guy that has driven, you know, endless M cars, special edition BMWs, I mean, it's good. Like, I don't think you could, as a car guy, hop in this car and be like, maybe unless you drove an F40 20 minutes ago, I don't think you can be like, oh yeah, I don't like this or that, or oh, it's lacking, or, I mean, I really don't think you can, because even if you get in it and you go, oh, I thought it'd be faster, you're not gonna discredit the fact that, all right, the noises it makes and just what you know you're in is pretty damn cool. And when the exhaust bounces off the high curbs, I hope the mic picks this car up, because the noise is intoxicating. Best way to put it, literally intoxicating. I will say, being an Italian car, unlike German cars who have their harsh winters, these, Italians, Italy, you got your nice little beautiful summers and I think modest winters. I don't think it's getting like, 10 degrees and snowstorm. BMWs come with ski bags. This car, once the temperatures get low, it ain't happy. And I mean, that goes across the board of like the interior rattling around, but mainly the gearbox. This gearbox does not like being cold. Like, when you go to fire this car, even at ambient like 60-degree temps, the gearbox hardly shifts when it's cold. Like, this gearbox wants to be warm. Everything wants to be warm. Everything is better when it's warm on this car, which is a lot of older cars, but just definitely, like, people will sit in this car and it's like stored in my shop in the winter, which is heated. It won't go into gear. Like, the gearbox is just like sludge when you're not. And I think that's just because it's all cable shifted, because it's all behind you. So it's all kind of weird, but it's not really even a negative, because as soon as you start driving the car, it's fine. But it's just an interesting dynamic. And secondly, honestly, I drive a lot of cars pretty stupid. I have also driven this pretty stupid, and I have scared myself in this car. This car actually has a pretty, you could kill yourself driving dynamic to it. And I don't think that's necessarily a 348 thing in general. That is actually a rear wheel drive, rear or mid-engine car thing. And this is a phenomenon that I don't think a lot of people know unless you've like kind of been around them. You see a lot of videos of people crashing Porsches, crashing Lamborghinis, crashing Ferraris, right? Well, the reason that that's so common is because all these rear or mid-engine cars, when you're flooring it, they're great. You have all that weight in the back, pushing down your tires. The grip is fantastic. Well, when you are coming out of your pull, and this is why you see it a lot in the guys that are like doing the pulls out of car meets, and then they let off and they're crashed. Well, because all your weight's in the rear, when you're accelerating, you're squatting, and it's helping you. When you're heavy on the brakes, in a front engine car, what happens? The front of the car bows down, the weight of the engine helps it go down, and therefore your front tires are even getting more grip under brake. With a rear engine car, all the inertia of that engine, it still wants to go. And there's nowhere for it to go, so it kind of lifts. So if you're heavy on the brakes, the rear of the car will kind of lift and you'll lose grip, you'll lose traction. And that's why when you see those videos, it's literally people, they're doing a pull and then they quickly let off or quickly hit the brakes. And then the engine kind of slingshots, and a lot of times it'll oversteer you or it'll just send the car in some wacky thing. And a lot of people can't counter that, and then you crash the car. I've literally, at that roundabout, almost crashed this car because I did the same thing. I went in hot, slammed on the brakes, these crappy old Continental tires, lifted the rear chirped, and then next thing I know, it was nearly oversteering, which was the sketchiest moment of my life. And for that reason, you just have to get used to driving. So I don't think it's a 348 thing. It's just a mid rear engine car thing. It's a little sketchy. You just have to be mindful of that. First off, you need good tires. Second off, yeah, it does not drive like a rear or a front wheel drive or a front engine car. It drives like you gotta. It humbles you. You gotta have some like skill driving this car. You have to respect the car. I mean, literally, you have to respect the car. It is one hell of a drive. So, and I have heard people say they do complain, oh, the 348's a poor handling car. I don't really understand why. I mean, I think this car handles fantastic. It feels great. Maybe it's the sketchiness, and maybe that's a 348 thing. I don't know why this lighting seems horrible. Yeah, it definitely will humble you quick. So otherwise, I think we'll call it there. A quick little initial impressions. It is just, you have to drive it to understand how absolutely awesome it is. I adore this car. It's literally a dream. This has been a dream. I'm so happy to share it with you guys. Doesn't mean anything's different from the BMW side of things, but I wanted my little guilty pleasure car, and I'm so happy to have gotten it. So more videos to come. I can't wait to head-to-head this thing with, E34s and E30s and all that. Should be a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our first episode with the Ferrari. Ferrari's worst car ever. Shut up. That's stupid. This thing is fantastic. So, and I will stand by it. Anyways, yes, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.